Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every day on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions show are available through Spotify, Podbean, iTunes, wherever you pick up audio versions of the show, you will find us there. And this is your Monday mashup, the show we bring you each and every Monday, where we go back through the results of the Premier League at the weekend, and we also discuss some of the hot topics that come out of those results. Joining me tonight, as always, on the mashup, Darren. How are we, Darren?
Good evening.
Good evening. We had a very busy podcast day today now, didn't we?
We certainly did.
Yeah, we thought we had gotten out of the traps very, very quick, only to be told, boys, you're needed again at 2:00.
For part two.
And part two delivered what we actually wanted in part one. So nothing to complain about.
Absolutely nothing.
How was the young lad's reaction when you told him?
Won't tell him till Stevens' Day.
Oh, nice. Happy days. So bit of a surprise.
Very cool. See, I don't know whether it's a surprise or not. I'm sure when he saw Atletico and United, he probably, got a little bit excited. So I'd imagine in the back of his head, he's thinking, please make sure I'm going to this game, But
did he say anything to you about the draw?
Haven't spoken to him today. I've been at work and he had a few bits on, so we haven't chatted about it. We'll probably talk tomorrow, I'd say.
Absolutely.
But I'll have to try and play dumb and say, we won't be able to go with the COVID thing and, bloody plan, give it all that jive and yourself, make him sweat over this,
Absolutely. Like he has to earn it. There's a Jeep there that needs to be validated.
Absolutely.
Let's get into the weekend. A very interesting weekend in terms of penalties, in terms of COVID, and a number of other things, including very poor refereeing, I thought, at the weekend. There was a number of decisions that were made that were a little bit shocking, really, when you think about it. But let's go down through the results anyway, first, as we always do. Brentford 2, Watford 1, kicking off on the Friday, 8:00. Dennis with the goal for Watford. Janssen and Mbuemo with a late penalty, 95th minute, for Brentford, taking all 3 points. Thomas Frank, I'm sure, would have been delighted. Man City
took the penalty very well, didn't he?
He did, absolutely, yeah, and very deep into stoppage time. Man City 1, Wolves 0. Penalty from Sterling. Moment of madness from Jimenez really cost his team the game. They were banging the game up till that point, giving them good showing of themselves. And just that moment of madness from Jimenez really cost them the game when you think about it. And in fairness, the Wolves, they stood up as 10 men, in fairness, against City in the second half. Arsenal 3, Southampton 0. Lacazette with a sublime goal. Absolutely fantastic team goal. If anyone hasn't got it yet, go and have a look at it from back all the way to front.
This was definitely your favourite goal of the weekend, wasn't it, pal?
I think it was, in terms of, because I do really like, as a coach myself, I love those team goals. I often say to guys when I'm coaching them, it's all well and good picking up a ball and smashing in one from 35 yards into the top corner. That's all well and good. But as a coach, I like to see a bit of build-up play. I like to see a lot of players involved, a lot of triangles and stuff like that, opening up teams and scoring a goal. And sometimes a tap-in, to me, it means more if the build-up play to that tap-in has been a lot more than a 35-yarder. And I always say that to lads. It's much more satisfying for me as a coach. But yeah, and then Odegaard and Gabriel with 2 lovely headers. Arsenal winning 3-0. Chelsea 3, Leeds 2. Mount with the goal and Jorginho with 2 penalties. He's cold as ice when it comes to these penalties. Now, I know he missed one for Italy, but I mean, in terms of him taking penalties, you nearly put your house on him.
Chelsea as well, didn't he?
Missed one for Chelsea as well, but you'd normally put your house on him to score them, wouldn't you? And then Rafinha got a penalty, and the young lad Gerrard came on and scored a nice little goal with a lovely little run into the box that just kind of, they were slow to track, if you like. He got there first. Liverpool 1, Aston Villa 0. Penalty from Mo Salah. It was kind of a soft penalty from Mings, really, and it wasn't it. And Salah just knows, he's just clever enough to know when to go down. Villa had a big shout themselves for a penalty. I know Stevie spoke about it after the game. But yeah, it was kind of like, I think Aston Villa stayed in the game, but I think Liverpool were so dominant first half. Second half, Stevie made some changes, brought on Buendia and brought on Ings and changed the game a little bit for about 10, 15 minutes. That was really the story of the game. Norwich 0, Man United won the 5:30 kickoff on Saturday, a late penalty from Ronaldo. Norwich were bang slap in this game, weren't they? Only for a moment of madness from Max Aarons.
Madness. And I mean, like, if you look at the incident as an isolated incident, like, I don't even think Ronaldo's getting to the ball, you know?
No.
Like, it's considerably over the height of where he is, and it drops to Bruno, who wastes the chance behind him with the header. And Aaron's, I don't know what he's thinking. Like, and to be fair to the kid, he'd had a pretty good game. He'd got up and down that touchline a good few times, and he kept things tight at the back while trying to press as much as he could and create stuff going forward. But it's a head scratcher when you see a guy doing something like that on the 6-yard line, and then he's looking as if to say, "What's going on here? Has something happened? Has something happened?" And you're going, "You tried to swap jerseys with him in the 76th minute, pal. What do you mean? Like, what's going on?"
It's the panic of the reputation as well, isn't it? That he knows it's Ronaldo. So he just, obviously he sees it's Ronaldo and he senses danger.
Yeah.
And then he just reacts to that. And then look, I'm sure when the boy watched it back afterwards, he must have thought, Jesus, he stole one there on me. You know what I mean? When you think about
100%.
But you know what I mean? Most of us, if we were defenders running in, if we see Ronaldo running in, we're going to nudge him or grab him or do something there, because we just assume he's going to be the guy that's going to be on the ball, don't we?
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen it so often lately with United where he has been that kind of, he popped up with a header and stuff like that late on in games to win games for us. So, you can understand where it's kind of happened in the kid's head, but still, it's just a mental decision. Like, and I suppose the big thing for me, like you say, as a coach, this is a decision-making process for me. And that's where teams are going to either get out of trouble or put themselves in more trouble based on, how, because a lot of teams they'll put the same amount of effort and work rate in, they'll cover the same kind of ground, they'll make the same kind of tackles, but it's a decision-making process at the end of the day. And that's on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. That's going to put them in a position to either solidify their position in this league or it's going to cost them a position in this league,
Yeah, and that would be a vital point as well.
I think so.
Sunday then, the 2 o'clock, the Brighton Tottenham one was postponed, obviously due to COVID, massive outbreak of COVID there at Tottenham. And we're also hearing tonight, I think the Brentford game is off, is it? I'm not too sure. I know they were talking about it earlier, but I didn't get an update. It's
borderline. I don't think anything's been agreed yet, but it is borderline. And obviously, if anyone is suffering that in that Tottenham squad with COVID, we hope it's Daniel Levy. That's all we can say.
He's way too far away from the players for him to catch COVID off the players.
Let's hope it was Daniel. God bless him. It was Cotton.
The Battle of the Clarets at 2 o'clock, Burnley versus West Ham, 0-0. Was one that was kind of, you would call it that'd be a tight game. I thought there might be a couple of goals in it, but I was surprised when it ended up being a 0-0. I didn't think they'd cancel each other out that much.
I think, Burnley, it's a tough place to go on a Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock. It's cold, it's wintry, the pitch is absolutely diabolical. West Ham would have been in action in the Europa on the Thursday nights, which we know gives a bit of trouble then at the weekends and stuff like that. Burnley are so resolute, but unfortunately going forward, especially missing our boy Maxwell Cornet, they look a little bit blunt at times, So I could see that happening if I'm honest. I think I went with 1-1 on the preview. So
you definitely said it'd be tight anyway. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I suppose when you listen to Moyes, and Moyes says he wants West Ham to be in that conversation of a top 4, and fair play to him in terms of that, and he has been doing really, really well. But they're the type of games where you have to go there, you have to try and pick up 3 points there, don't you, if you want to be in that conversation in reality?
Absolutely, but the other thing I will say is, there's a lot of good teams will drop points going to Turf Moor this year, and have done over the previous years. It's certainly not a gimme, the way maybe other grounds are, and I don't think they'll look at it maybe as 2 points lost. They might even just think, that's a point gain on our travels. Tough game after the European game, and it keeps the ball rolling for us after a good win against Chelsea, obviously,
Yeah, and a lot of fixtures coming up, obviously, with the festive period nearly on top of us.
Yeah.
Leicester 4, Newcastle 0, Tillemans with 2, Patson Daka with 1, boy that we like. And your boy James Maddison, bang back in form with a goal as well. I expected this to be a little bit tighter than that. I didn't expect Leicester to absolutely stuff Newcastle.
Yeah, kind of with Leicester at the minute, it's a funny one, you know. They've got this midweek team that they've been kind of rolling out for the European games, and then they've got that Premier League team. But at the weekend, it was kind of a blend between the two. Obviously, now the group is finished in Europe, and it looked like Rodgers had kind of gone, okay, we don't have two things to look at anymore. We can solely look at this, and we'll go into it with the idea that we'll merge the best from each of the midweek and the weekend squad. That's what looks like what happened, you know. You saw obviously the return of Tillemans, and Madison's on a good roll at the minute, and I think the boy Patson Daka is going to be a really, really good player. You know, he's got a lot of goal involvement for Leicester this season, and maybe not in the league as much as he'd want, but again, he's been played a lot in the Europa and stuff like that. I think now we'll start seeing, especially again over that busy Christmas period where Vardy might not be able to play game on game. I think we'll see a lot of them. We'll probably see him start hitting his straps. It might be something to look at for the fancy football.
Yeah, and it's fair to say his introduction at the start was slow as well. They took their time on him, like they didn't bang him in there straight away.
No.
And then we rounded out the week with Crystal Palace with a massive win over Everton, 3-1. Your boy, the boy that we like, Conor Gallagher with 2, and James Tompkins with 1, and Rondon with the goal for Everton. But that moment, I think, where Coleman picked up the ball and he tried to do a Jimenez, he tried to volley the ball off the player. Remember from the free kick?
Yeah.
The ball broke out to a Palace player. He squared it to Gallagher, and Gallagher with a sublime finish into the top corner. Absolutely beautiful goal, but very unusual for Seamus Coleman. A lot of frustration there at the moment, isn't there? Very, very frustrating.
There is, and you know, I don't want to harp on about it, but like again, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Like he's really on the slide for me at Everton. I know he's club captain and stuff like that. I'll be shocked if they don't look. Like I kind of mentioned the next 18 months, I see him being ousted there. I don't even know if it'll get that far if he keeps this up. You know, there's petulance there, there's frustration there, but there's also a serious lack of quality there at the minute with Coleman. You know, that's not the Seamus Coleman we've seen over the last number of years. Who, you know, as Irishmen, obviously watching him at Everton, we were like, wow, this guy is phenomenal, and he was up and down the wing. And I think the injuries have kind of caught up with Seamus a little bit at this stage. He's had quite a number of knocks and stuff like that.
It's very unusual for him to show his frustration so obvious on the pitch, and he must have felt terrible because it led to a goal. I
mean, it's just petulant, isn't it? You know, like and again, it's a decision-making process. And this is back to Max Aarons. This is back to Jimenez. These are all split-second decisions that, when you make good ones, can really, really give you the push in the right direction. But when you make bad ones, can really, really hammer you in the opposite direction. And that's what happened. 3 players this weekend, you know.
Yeah, it's the reason why clubs have a Thiago at the back, or a Van Dijk, or a Ruben Diaz, or they don't make those mistakes. They don't do those silly things, you know. So yeah. And
listen, there's gonna be like a lot of teams that can't afford to have the Ruben Diaz, the Van Dijk, the Varane, the Thiago Silva, you know, those kind of players. But there's also a lot you can instill in your players, and you know, as a manager, and you can go, do you know what? Let them go. Let them win the header. Don't, you know what I mean? Like, there's no guarantee with winning the header that the goal is scored either. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a frustration from a defensive coach, isn't it, as well? Because what
absolutely.
You're looking for the difference that you're trying to make up in the quality, you're trying to make up for in the kind of cleverness. And I mean, McColeman being a seasoned veteran there, he should know better than that, really. He's been through the wars there for years at Everton, you know?
I mean, Rafa knows how to marshal a defence. It's always something he's been very, very good at, you know? So to see something like that go down under his watch must be extremely frustrating for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that rounds up the weekend's the the weekend's results. Interesting weekend, really a weekend of penalties, VAR, and COVID. Let's get into some of the hot topics. One thing we covered in length today: the Champions League draw, Inter versus Liverpool, Atletico versus Man U, Chelsea versus Lille. Still can't understand how they got Lille twice. It's just mad, isn't it, when you think about it? And Sporting versus Man City. Thoughts, I suppose. Give me thoughts on the Atletico game for your own team.
Yeah, I suppose, like, I've obviously had a bit of time now to digest it and stuff like that, and see what's been said on the United forums and stuff like that. And I think United fans seem to think this is going to be a really, really difficult game. I don't necessarily think it's not going to be a very, very difficult game, but I'm certainly not going into the game with the kind of trepidation that I would have gone in, 2 years ago. When Atletico were at the height of their powers.
Yeah.
I don't think Atletico are anywhere near the side that's been in the Champions League final. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's been a serious switch of focus there. I noticed it in the 2 games we played against them as well. There's a much, for a team that has such quality, there's such a huge emphasis on the dirty side of the game, let's call it, instead of using the quality you have there to go and play football and express yourself on the pitch. It's like as if he drills it into them that we got to drag teams down into the trenches. And, when you think about who he has there, I mean, he has Griezmann, he has Suarez, he has Joe Felix. He has so many good players, so many talented players, and yet they always want to get into a dogfight. And I just can never understand it. And it stems from him, the manager, because that's his demeanor. That's the way he is,
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Like I agree with you, and I feel like he kind of believes when he gets you down there that the scores are even and he's got a better chance at it.
Yeah.
But I think that works against certain sides, but maybe not against others. I think at times you've got to back yourself and go, you know what? We're a better side than these are. We don't need to go through this kind of stuff, to drop the level and to make it a dogfight and something that maybe somebody can get something out of. We can go out and play football here and beat teams. I think it's fairly obvious to the man on the street. Like, they're a better side than Barcelona are at the minute. In a better situation. They've got a better structure to the club. They've got better players. The whole shooting match, but they're still trying to drag games down to being dogfights, and you're just thinking it's not necessarily playing to your strengths all the time.
It's not necessarily that they even want to beat you. It's what they want to do is they want to break your will or something. It's like they have a
life out of you.
Yeah, and break your will, and then maybe nick the game. It's nearly a case of nicking the game rather than going out expressing themselves. They have goal scorers. They could easily beat teams if they put them to sort. I often wonder what kind of Atletico we would get if he wasn't the manager, and if you had someone in there who wanted to play that kind of progressive football and play these players to their strengths. I think they'd be a huge attacking force in Europe and also in La Liga. But they just seem to want to get down into the mud and into the trenches, drag you down there, try and break your will. It's like not only do they want to beat you, they want to nearly murder you. And you're there going, let's play ball, like, you know what I mean? You've Suarez, Joe Felix, Griezmann. You have an abundance of riches there.
It's that kind of attritional football.
Yeah.
But as you said earlier, it's indicative of the type of person and footballer Diego Simeone was.
Yeah.
He was a master of the dark arts.
Yeah.
Pulling jerseys, tapping ankles, little elbows here, throwing fingers in fellas' eyes. Like, this guy was a genius at what he did in his defense. We only have to look at what he managed to do to David Beckham, and he absolutely done him up like a kipper, at that World Cup.
Yeah. But football's moved on so much from then, hasn't it?
It has. I think I'll tell you where I'd have the issue here is the Atletico board. I mean, the buy-in into him seems to be ridiculous. Like, he's the highest paid manager in world football. That's scary. For a guy who like, I have to be like, I'm obviously trying to be respectful here, but for a guy who tactically maybe isn't as astute as some of his peers, now listen, don't get me wrong. Is he getting a tune out of that fiddle? Absolutely he is. But as you say,
is he getting the tune he should? That's the thing.
Or is he getting the tune that fiddle is capable of giving him?
Yeah.
And that's where I'd like to look at it. But I think the board, like they've bought into this massively, haven't they? And they're like, well, this is our guy. We're nailing our flag to the mast here because like he's the highest paid coach in world football, which is phenomenal.
He's
really
been there
is.
long. He's been there a long time as well.
He has, and I suppose he brought a lot of success back to Atletico as well. We've got to remember.
Yeah, and he's worked in the shadow of Barca and Real for a long, long time.
And financially, with constraints that those two clubs maybe didn't have. Although now in hindsight, you're thinking those clubs didn't have them either. It was just that's how things were being run type thing.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think for United, I think Ranić, I think he'd be well versed in it and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And he'd have the boys. You're going to have another 2 or 3 months nearly under your belt of him at that stage. So as I said today when we were doing the draw live, he'll have that time to have spent with the team and understand what his 11 is, and that 11 will be going onto the pitch, understanding what he desires and what he wants and what his pattern of play is.
Yeah.
And you can see when we played Atletico as well, once we put the press on them and stuff like that, similar to what Ranić tried to achieve, they didn't have much of an answer for that, and they wilted. We actually broke their will at that stage then,
I think they're actually quite a slow team. There's not an awful lot of speed in the side, plus the tempo of play is quite slow. And I think that's where a lot of the European teams now are getting found out in Europe, especially against the English sides, because they can play with and press with such ferocity. You know what I mean? It's very, very daunting for those kind of sides to come up against a Liverpool, a Man City, a Chelsea, or even a United who are still in transition because of the speed and the ferociousness of how they'll go at teams. That's going to catch teams on the back foot straight away, isn't it?
That high press game as well, when you get it right, when you see the way Liverpool do it and stuff like that, and I'm sure United will get there as well. But when you see them press like that as well, even if you're not a physical team, you present yourself as if you're a physical team, and you put the fear of God in these teams, even if you're not that physical, Well,
it's back to what we talked about earlier. Do you want to work hard or do you want to work smart? Because there's 2 different ways to do this. I think for a long time under Solskjaer, United lads were working very, very hard, but weren't necessarily getting out of it what they expected or wanted out of it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think, and I know I've heard comments already say, there's an uppage of the amount of sprints United are making, but there's actually a drop off in the distance they're covering.
Yeah.
But they're sprinting at different times, so they're managing the game better. And they're working smarter rather than just saying, we're just going to keep running around here. And again, United fans will know for so long we labelled, Fred, he's just running around the place everywhere. He was trying to be too busy. Whereas now things look like a little more, there's a controlled press. He knows when. And I think that's going to funnel off into other players as well, Everybody looks like they're looking around going, I know what he has to do now. I know what he has to do. I know what he has to do. And furthermore, they know what they're trying to do, which brings a whole lot of confidence to the whole situation,
Yeah, and I read an article, I think today, that the tiredness that United expressed within the Norwich game at times was because apparently he's absolutely working them to death in training. Apparently, he's absolutely running the heels off these guys. Apparently, so, and it's probably, I suppose, for you guys as fans, it's probably long overdue. They should be putting in this work. That's what needs to be done,
I see there's a couple of things he's changed already, and I know one of them was he's already gone out. He was hoping to meet Pogba yesterday, but he's called Pogba back from Dubai to say, you're not going to recover in Dubai and be flaunting around the place, taking pictures here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
You'll recover in Manchester with our medical staff, and stuff like that, and you'll basically be at our beck and call when we want you, rather than you calling the shots here, And good. This is 100% how it should be. Absolutely. I think there's too much, and we spoke about the respect factor and stuff like that. Very hard for you to respect a guy who you can go in and control in a conversation. You know, so when Pogba goes in, he sits there and he's talking to Ollie and he says, listen, I'm going to do me rehab and bloody blah and bloody blah. And Solskjaer is looking, going, well, I want to keep this guy on side, and maybe I want him to get him to sign a contract and bloody blah. So yeah, go ahead, Paul, enjoy yourself. Whereas Ranić goes, you know, listen, I don't give a fuck if you sign a contract, pal, because if you don't sign a contract, I'll pick up another bloke who'll do what you do or more, and I'll just keep the ball rolling.
Well, and we know with the German coaches, respect is earned and then given.
Right, but this is always the way, you know, things were at United when under Ferguson, you know, and it was nobody was bigger than the club. But for a while there, we got to a phase maybe with Mourinho, with Van Gaal, and with Solskjaer and stuff like that, and under Moyes, that maybe lads were bigger than the club because there was a necessity to keep hold or to bring players in because they felt like that was going to be the piece of the jigsaw. Whereas I think going back and taking the jigsaw apart from start to finish again and going, you know what, we need to relay some of these foundations. We need to let people know, like, be it Mason Greenwood, be it Marcus Rashford, yeah, you're super talented. Yeah, you've got the world at your feet, but if you don't put in the work that's expected of you here at Manchester United, your space and your spot in the team isn't guaranteed, and that's just the way it's going to be, you know, and that's going to get us to a better place.
That's the way it should be.
100%.
I, like yourself, I digested today the Inter versus Liverpool tie. And the only thing I can take out of it, I know Inter play a nice brand of football at times, but when I look at the team that we put out against AC Milan and how comprehensively we beat them, even with a kid, the boy Tyler Morton in midfield pulling the strings against an AC Milan side, and Zlatan not really offering up much to the two boys at the back. And I digested the fact that they're top of Serie A, so Inter are below them.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, I'm not saying that Inter's talent is any less or they're lesser of a team, but I know they've lost a number of players as well, and Inzaghi's gone in there. And I think we'll just have too much for them. I think on our day we'll have too much for them.
I think you'll have way too much. I don't even think this is a conversation, if I'm honestly.
Yeah.
I think he's over 2 legs, you do this by 4.
Yeah, and I think that the beauty of it as well, the fact that the second leg is at Anfield is huge for us. So yeah, but I don't think it'll be a problem.
That if there's a bit of a false start the away game, you know, you've seen it with them before, they can come back and just turn the tie in 20 minutes, 30 minutes like that and just absolutely blitz teams.
Yeah.
You know, I think this would be comfortable for Liverpool. I'd back them to win both legs, if I'm honest, and be like 3 or 4 to the good on the aggregate score, you know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when we get into the quarterfinal draw that will be next. If potentially the 4 English teams are still in there, you know what I mean? And I don't see a reason why they wouldn't.
No, I think there's, you know, you've got a really good chance of having all 4 English sides still in the quarters. I suppose that's where you might like to see the league protection kept, you know, to see, but to guarantee it, then if you get all 4 of your teams through, then you have your semi-final, you know, that type of way.
Be stretching it, wouldn't you? Be stretching it if you wanted all 4 English teams in the semis. Can you imagine?
No, but I would be looking at it from any, you know, if that was Italian football, you know, like I do think if one team is or if one league is particularly strong, i.e., like if we're looking at it now that the Premier League's a really, really strong league, like Liverpool will have a much more difficult tie against City than they will against Juve or Sporting or Inter, or you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's based on the fact that it's a stronger league, not just they're a stronger team.
Yeah.
I think you could argue like having to play United, City or Chelsea would be up there with the most difficult games they'd have to play.
Yeah, I mean the only other 2 would be Bayern or PSG, who the likelihood is will go through.
Yes, in their own toys, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what, like, if they kept it, they could keep it up to the quarterfinals, and that way, if you had teams, you would know that. Listen, you actually have a chance to have all 4 teams in this if your league is good enough, and it applies a little more pressure to it, even for that league. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know where you're coming from, but I still think it'd be quite a stretch, really. You know. Be something else. I mean, if Liverpool drew Chelsea and United drew City and Manchester Derby, be something else, wouldn't it?
It would, and it just seems to be, like the eyes of European football at the minute are just drawn towards England.
Premier League is operating at a different level to everyone else, way above, isn't it? I mean, I know we have Bayern there, and they're so strong in Germany, and they're fantastic, fantastic players. But when you look at the abundance of riches in the Premier League at the moment, and even, when you look at the likes of Chelsea and you look at the likes of Man City, I know Chelsea have a few injury worries at the moment, and there's a slight dip in form of that. But in general, if you look at Chelsea and Man City, they could nearly field second 11s and be competitive in the Champions League, you know what I mean? And it's amazing the way the tide has turned. Like, I know Real are coming back to a little bit of form now with Ancelotti in there and stuff like that. Barcelona are kind of in the mud, they're really, really struggling. These are powerhouses that have been there. Dortmund dropped out of it, you know what I mean? It's just, it's mad to see how much better the Premier League is to these bigger European leagues that used to be joints of the European scene, It's amazing the way they stole a market.
Italy and Spain have really, really dropped off. I mean, there was never the pool of talent in Germany or in France. You always had a standout team, but you didn't necessarily have a bunch or a group of teams that you felt could go on.
Yeah.
And end up with 4 teams in a semi-final or something like that. You did feel like that way against Italy, and you did feel like that in Spain,
Yeah.
But right now, if the 4 teams avoid each other, you could absolutely see them in an all English semi-final, in 2 all English semi-finals.
And especially with the level of coaching that's in there now. I mean, you've got Klopp, Tuchel, Ranić, Pep. Even when you go down even into the lesser teams, you've got Thomas Frank in there, Graham Potter,
Conte, Brendan Rodgers.
Brendan Rodgers. You know what I mean? Like, just like any of those managers could go in and potentially win a La Liga, or potentially with the right riches available to them, could challenge Bayern in a Bundesliga situation, stuff like that. There really are top managers there. And most weeks when you're going out to play, even Rafa at Everton, I know he's going through a terrible spell with Everton at the moment, but we know the quality of Rafa Benitez,
Absolutely.
Legacy speaks for itself. But when you look at it there, like when you think about it, nearly every week in the Premier League, you're coming up against a top coach all the time.
And I think that's something as well, in our search for a manager, that's one of the things that's hindered United, is that most of the coaches you would look to maybe get in to the job
are tied down,
but are tied down to rivals within 100 miles. You know, when you're kind of like, Jesus, where do you go from here? But that's happened over the last few years, because obviously Pep and Klopp and now Tuchel and Conte and stuff like that. It's the talent it's huge in the Premier League on a managerial and on a playing front.
Yeah, but I mean, even when you look at managers who you would have thought at times would be making up the numbers, the likes of, let's say, David Moyes, who we're a big fan of in terms of West Ham and stuff like that, who you would think previously would be managers that are making up numbers. Now he's up there challenging for European spots. Now he's done a really good coaching job at West Ham, even after coming out of the back of a couple of iffy coaching jobs. You could see now his progress even within himself. He's a top manager, you know what I mean?
Listen, he did it with Everton. He put Everton in the Champions League. Like, let's not play that down. That's a huge achievement. If you look at where Everton are now and where they've been in the years post Moyes, you can see the job he did. The job he got at United was a poison chalice. The job couldn't work for anybody, let alone, I don't believe if we bring Pep or Klopp in there, that works anyway. Or you know what I mean? So I think it was a poison chalice. I think he was doomed to fail based on the squad Ferguson has given him, the structure at the club, himself and David Gill both stepping down. Woodward not known as arse from his elbow. Like, it was a snowball effect, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose the only disappointing thing really is if Emery had it worked out at Arsenal a bit better, we'd still maybe have Emery still in the league. And that would have been pretty cool, because then you have a serious collection of top coaches, don't you?
Yeah, and I mean, like, Newcastle obviously tried to poach him, didn't they, recently?
Yeah.
And you know, it's something I see them revisit if Eddie can keep them in the league. We talked about it before. I saw Eddie getting this job a long way out, but I only see him getting it till the end of the season. I think there's two big ifs here. There's if we stay up, and I think if they stay up, they go after Emery again, because I think they've had the chat, and I think he knows, you know, he's a wanted man. There's a project there, you know, and if you can get Villarreal back into the Champions League, maybe get them to a quarter or something like that this year. It'll be tougher now, obviously, but you know, I think that'd be huge for him. And then there's the what if we get relegated, because I think what if we get relegated, I think there's another conversation we had where they look at somebody else to come in. You know, I think Scott Parker, or, you know, an ex-Newcastle player who's now at
could even potentially keep Eddie Howe in there. I mean, he'd be a decent manager in the Championship to get them back up.
He'd be decent, but I don't know if it's a guarantee, you know.
But they know they've dropped him in a bit of a meat grinder, you know what I mean? It'd be unfair to punish him, wouldn't it?
Listen, would it be the first time we've seen it happen?
No. But I think with Eddie Howe, they've brought him in, they've given him an 18-month contract, haven't they? They're kind of expecting that if it does go a few ways.
They should absolutely allow him the Championship. You know, Parker is obviously at Bournemouth now. He's got Fulham up. He's doing a pretty decent job with Bournemouth at the minute now. If he got them up, Parker's also an ex-Newcastle player.
Yeah.
You know, would they look and go, this guy could get us up third time. He's got a side up in the last 3 or 4 years. He knows how to do it. And then again, we give him an 18-month, 24-month deal, so we haven't got a big offside to pay when we oust him, when he's got us up.
Yeah. And
when we want to get, you know, X, Y, or Z in, because we've now got, you know, boots on the ground, and we've got, you know, money to spend and stuff like that. So there's big things there. But, you know,
imagine next season. Imagine next season if we had Emery at Newcastle in the Premier League, and imagine if Ralph steadies you guys and gets you organised, and then you bring in Ten Hag.
Conte at Spurs, Gerrard
at Villa, like that's a serious league, isn't it? I mean, the managers nearly get you as excited as the playing staff. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you want to see those kind of technical battles, don't you? Tactical battles on a weekend where you're pitting somebody against somebody else, and you're going, you know what? This isn't just about the 11 players I have on the pitch here. This is about how good this guy in the dugout is, and what his ideas are, and how he gets his message across to his players and stuff like that. You want that, I think, you know.
Yeah, when you think about it, it's really a football who's who over the last 20 years, because we haven't even mentioned Vieira at Palace. We haven't mentioned Ranieri at Watford. You know what I mean? Like, it's really the quality. Rodgers at Leicester, but the quality within those teams at the moment in terms of the coaching, you know, you can very clearly see why the league is performing at a level way above all the other European leagues with that quality in there.
Don't forget, then they've got Mikel Arteta.
That has to be. That's. We're going to get into that now in a second. Anyway, you know? So yeah, we'll park the Champions League there for the moment anyway. And let's see what happens. I did have a quick look at the pricing on the away game, the Inter game, and it's outrageous. But I did do a sneaky little hotel booking for the home game against Inter. I booked up a hotel on the cheap before they had a chance to trigger the prices. Pay as you go. Let's move on anyway. Aubameyang, I want to bring up. Bit of a conundrum here with Aubameyang, isn't there? Like it's kind of like he's had a couple of disciplinary issues with Arsenal. He's certainly flattered to deceive since he got his big contract. And he seems to be disrespectful. Is that the word that you would use?
Where would you say the conundrum was here, by the way? Because usually there would be an offset to all the bad stuff, but I don't see that either.
No, the offset to the bad stuff is when's the next bit of bad stuff coming? Because certainly they look a different side when he's not there. There tends to be a sort of a drop off in terms of they're slightly more relaxed within their play when he's not there. So it's kind of like we spoke before about the Harry Kane effect with Spurs. When he wasn't there at the start of the season with Spurs, they played within themselves and they got some really good results because they didn't feel the pressure of having to make him the focal point. Yeah. And I think you could see it in the Arsenal, the way they played the other day. They played more like the Arsenal that we expect, sort of free flowing. And I just think, I don't know, he came out, and it's a difficult one for Arteta as well, because I mean, he has to shoulder a little bit of it as well, because I don't know whether he's strong enough to manage that kind of personality. But on the other side, he's been given a fantastic contract. He's been made club captain, which I don't think he should be. And I just think it's petulant for him as well. And it, you know, you're looking at Arteta having to come out and try to conjure up a kind of an excuse, and then because Aubameyang's on the other side and he's posting pictures of getting tattooed or whatever it is and stuff like that, you can't turn around and say, well, he's nursing a knock or something like that to protect it and keep it internal. So you have to turn around and go, yeah, it's a disciplinary thing. And then you're looking bad then, because you're standing in front of a world camera, because we know the Premier League is worldwide, it's global, and you're having to say, yeah, we had to discipline him like it's the 10-year-olds in school. You know what I mean? This guy's supposed to be your club captain.
He'd be nursing a knock, all right. It'd be one to the head. He's an absolute cancer at Arsenal Football Club right now. He really, really is. And it's a bridge they're going to have to cross very, very soon. Like you said, the issue with Arsenal is going to be, with the deal they've given him,
it's impossible to unload.
It's impossible to unload him. Unless he fancies a gig in the Chinese Super League,
which we know has dried up.
So I don't know if that's even on the cards. But I mean, other than that, like, where does he go? Like, Barca are bailing themselves out of trouble at the minute, from the cash point of view and with a financial situation. I think he would improve Barca because they're very light up front. But I don't know if he's the right kind of player to bring in. Obviously, with being how divisive he is in the change room and stuff like that, and obviously with the amount of money he command. But Arsenal created this issue for themselves, in the most part. But somebody's got to pull the plug on this very, very soon. It's getting more and more toxic by the day. It really, really is. And it's killing the crop it's killing that new crop and those new kind of players who have come in and started to play for the jersey at Arsenal, and there is some good young lads there, you've got the boy Tommy Yasu, the boy Kieran Tierney, you've got Saka, you got Odegaard, you've got Smith Rowe, you've got the keeper, you've got Ben White, you've got Ramsdale, Sambi, like there's a lot of talent there. They're missing a couple of things. They're missing a leader, which we've spoken about. Aubameyang, he's not a captain. Take the armband off and give it to somebody. Personally speaking, right now, I think you could only either give it to Ben White or Ramsdale. I think that'd be your go-to. I think you could give it to White and you could go, listen, kids, we know this is a big step. You've come from Brighton. And even at Brighton, he didn't play a lot of games. He was on loan at Leeds and stuff like that. But there was interest in White. There was interest from a lot of big clubs, and I think when you see him at times, you can understand why there's been a lot of talk about him and why the price tag was put on him and stuff like that. Again, that's not down to him. That's just down to football and the way things go at the minute. But he's definitely a leader when he's out there on the pitch for Arsenal, 100%, even at the tender age he's at now. And I think the boy Ramsdale is very similar. I think he's a leader out there. You can see him, he's talking and he's shouting, he's asking for more, and he wants guys to put that extra little bit in and stuff like that.
Bit of body language and a bit of aggression, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think, Tierney's a ready-made captain if he was able to stay fit, which is the issue. It's definitely something where you can make him a club captain and make, maybe make White the vice captain, and then White ends up captaining week to week because Tierney's not able to play game on game on game. But I mean, there is a lot of good young players at Arsenal there, and they've got to make sure that this guy doesn't turn the place sour. It's really important.
It's mad, isn't it? Because we're talking about the AFCON only being less than a month away, And you would normally look at Aubameyang and go, well, he's going to be a huge loss to Arsenal going to the AFCON. Now you look at it and you look at Arteta thinking, are your bags packed so we can drop you to the airport? Because him getting rid of him for a month could be the best thing that could happen to Arsenal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you taking a one-way flight? You take a one-way, I'll call you, you don't call me. We'll sort this out, you know? Like, this is a massive win for Arsenal. It probably, you know, it probably gives you a bit of breathing space and a bit of space where you go, okay, it's gone. Similar to how I imagine things go in Manchester when you've, you know, Mr. Paul Pogba in Abu Dhabi or in Dubai or wherever he is at the Middle East at the minute, you know. I'd say there's a lot of that goes on.
Yeah, it gives you that bit of visual clearance to clear your mind and think about what you want and how you want things to do. And you can reassess as well and look at these guys and think, well, are these really still in my plans? Do I really need this around?
I suppose the frustrating thing for United fans on this, and this is what Arsenal are missing out on, if the performances week to week from Aubameyang were unbelievable, this would be a headache, but they're not. He's been very, very poor. Now, at times, Pogba has looked unbelievable in that United jersey. And then there's other times when he's just looked like he's not interested, he's disinterested. And I suppose from a managerial point of view, we're always trying to harness, you know, the good and get that to the forefront, because I think we all understand as a player there, you know. And I think that's what hurts United really, is that we're always putting them in, hoping we're going to get the best version of them.
Yeah, now, you're looking for the 10 and sometimes you get the 5, but all you want is the 8 every week.
Every week, absolutely. And I think that's the bit with Aubameyang. I think you're not getting the 10 at all. I think you're not getting the 8 or the 7. You know, so that you're getting 4s and 5s week on week. So for Arteta, this has to be a big win. You're
getting the 6, and we're talking figures in his paycheck every week. But yeah, we'll park it there anyway, and we'll see. But I'd imagine we're going to see a very different Arsenal once the AFCON kicks in. I think there'll be a relief there. I think if Arteta's still there and they're going to stick with him, I think we'll see a different, more expansive way of playing. And I think it might be a relief for those younger guys. And it'll be interesting to see who goes in as captain with him away. And then if that goes really well, does that armband change when he comes back?
Well, hopefully it's not Granit Xhaka, because that's like stepping out of the frying pan and stepping into the fire, to be honest with you.
I think if that's the case, then it is time to part ways with our friend Arteta, isn't it?
If he goes down the route of Aubameyang's off on his jollies to the AFCON, we need someone to do this stopgap kind of a thing, you know, and he looks at Granit Xhaka. Like, then
you really need to be looking at your options in terms to leave the armband there, don't you? That's your intention, really.
Yeah, and to allow the armband to add something to the player.
Yeah,
you know, because that, you know, the armband being put on the right guy can do that. It can make them, you know, a couple of inches taller, you know, a little bit stronger, a step or two quicker, and that's what you want from your captain, you know.
Yeah, especially with so much youth coming through.
Absolutely. I mean, they've a plethora of talent at Arsenal at the minute, you know.
Yeah, let's move on anyway. A quick manager watch there, and I think we're going to get into it. We'll probably do a show on this. Rafa, Ralph Hasenhüttl, Dean Smith, Sean Dyche, and Marcelo Bielsa.
Yeah.
These are all guys at the moment that are kind of they're living on a bit of an edge at the moment, aren't they? In terms of that list, I mean, we've spoken about how Dean Smith might have to pack up and move houses twice in one season, potentially. But out of them, I suppose Rafa's really the man that's in hot water, really, isn't
he? He is, but I would be very wary if I was Ralph at the minute.
Yeah,
I think Ralph is getting, and when I say this, by the way, this isn't necessarily my opinion, because I've spoken about it before. I actually like the guy. You know, I don't think he's been backed at Southampton. I think Southampton gave quite a few managers over the years money to spend, and they didn't maybe spend it the way that they should have. I think they tightened the reins a lot with on the financial side of things with Hasenhüttl, and I think that as much as anything is curtailing their ability to get to a different level. Because I think tactically at times they look quite good, but I think when you look around the squad, you're going, this is a bit light, and it's lacking in quality. You know?
They're tactically setting up for a level of quality that isn't there. And I think when they had guys like Ings there and stuff like that, it was a different situation. And I think they have sold a number of quality players on them and haven't necessarily replaced it with the same level of quality. So I think they knew this season. They kind of got a pass last season as well with COVID and with fans not being in the grounds and stuff like that and all. But I think this season, with everything being back more or less nearly normal or on a par, I think that's when you get found out. And if you've sold some quality and not replaced it with similar quality, I think it's always a tough season for you, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, Ings at Southampton, he wasn't even a guy who was having chances created from. He was creating a lot of the chances himself. You know, he really was at times a one-man band in there. And to take those goals out and to take that, that need to not have somebody create chances all the time, because I think that's something they struggle with. Not only do they struggle with scoring, but they struggle with creating chances at times. You know, they're not like a team like Wolves who create a lot of chances and miss them.
Yeah.
They're a side that don't necessarily create the chances. They did an awful lot of the football at Arsenal on Saturday and didn't create in the final third. Like, there's so many players I look at in that Southampton squad, and I just think, wow, was he really, Shane Long?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, why have you got Shane Long in your squad? Nathan Redmond, what's he doing there?
Yeah.
These guys are A, past it, and B, not Premier League quality anymore.
And yet Danny Ings leaves.
And Danny Ings leaves because he looks around the change room and he goes, do I want to sit next to Emi Buendia and Matty Cash and Leon Bailey and or do I want to sit next to the boy Brozier, who's a good footballer but's on loan, and the boy Livramento, again, good footballer, but again on loan. Armstrong, and the boy Nathan Tella, and there's a lot of very, very average footballers.
It's weird, isn't it? When you think of Southampton, when someone starts talking to me about Southampton, I straight away think of James Ward-Prowse and set pieces. That's what I just think about straight away. I don't think about Armstrong. I know Brozier's on loan and stuff like that, and Livramento and all. But I don't think of them because maybe it's because they're on loan, or maybe it's because there's such a reliance on them and stuff like that. But even when we're looking at it and we're doing our predictions and stuff like that, and I look at a Southampton game or a fixture, I'm kind of thinking, could James Ward-Prowse here pop up with a free kick? And
could that be enough to get them over the line? And that's the scary thing, because Che Adams, like, work rate, endeavour, absolutely all day long. Premier League quality, I'd have to argue he's not.
Well, I suppose the difficulty for him is, as talented as he is, he's kind of on one side of a boat rowing it with one oar, isn't he? So it's kind of going around in circles a little bit, And I think if he had a decent partner of similar quality and endeavour and energy on the other side supporting him, I think you'd see a better Che Adams in terms of, I just think there would be a bit more there. But I think I just do when I look at it and I think of what's there and stuff like that and what he has to work with, I just look and I think, that's going to be a big struggle this year, isn't it?
Well, I mean, like, there's a smart way to do this, He's looked very, very good in the Scottish setup when he's played up top with the boy Lyndon Dykes, who was playing in the championship with QPR. He's very good in the goal involvements and stuff like that. Get him a partner. Get the guy a partner who can play 20 games out of 25 that, will work their socks off, will have assists, will score a few goals, and giving a foil to go out and work with. But at the minute, like, it's, the lad Broja there's undoubted talent there, but there's talent when you're playing for Chelsea and there's chances being created to beat the band. I don't know if there's talent there when you're at Southampton, you're trying to create an awful lot of the chances yourself, or your work rate or your endeavour is going to get you, chances. Yeah. I don't think that's his style at all,
Yeah, a good pass is only a good pass if it leads to something. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on this manager watch. I think these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 managers who certainly have to go out and either spend some money in January or pick up some decent loan deals from the Championship or something like that. But they're going to need to freshen their ideas up very, very quickly, because most of these teams are on a slide. And that relegation battle this year could be nearly as exciting as the title race in terms of the number of teams involved in it. It's like it could be any from 6 or 7.
I don't think it'll be as exciting as the title race, because I think this could be the best title race we've had in a long time. From a point of view, it won't be a 2-horse race. I genuinely believe this will be 3 teams up until 36 games of the season anyway. I feel like this is going to be neck and neck. We're going to be going into games where teams playing a Saturday afternoon are trying to get the march on teams that play on a Sunday evening, or on the march of teams that plays on a Saturday evening or a Monday. And I just think Chelsea, Liverpool and City, I think these are going to push each other to the absolute depths this year, but that's not to say that we won't have a little bit of excitement from the relegation battle either. I just think that this is going to be lively,
Yeah, it's certainly in terms of the title race, it's going to be interesting with these COVID outbreaks and stuff like that. If we do have teams having to shut down and games being postponed, and you're trying to play catch up and stuff like that, and if teams do go out and win and gain points and get a bit of a lead and stuff like that, could be hard to draw them back in, couldn't it? Especially the likes of City, who go out and generally perform week after week after week. And we did say at the start of the season that will come down to your results against the top 6. That's where it's really that's where that league's going to be won or lost, I think, this year.
Yeah.
Fabio Capello came out this week with a statement where he said Sir Alex Ferguson, he never really trained Man United, the team. He was just really the manager, you know what I mean? And well, what was your thoughts on the comment?
It's well known.
Yeah.
Ferguson didn't coach the side. He always employed a coach to coach day to day. And I mean, if you look at some of the coaches he had over the years, his first spate of success came with Brian Kidd. He had Steve McLaren, who had some serious success with him. He had Walter Smith, the late Walter Smith. He had Jim Smith, the ex-Derby manager. He had Carlos Queiroz, Rennie Mudelstein. He had Mike Phelan,
Who?
Yeah, exactly. He was the manager of the club. Yeah. He wasn't the coach to train the team. His the upside of Ferguson was the man management side of things, and the way he was able to keep squads of players happy, and stuff like that. When you had that talent and you had 4 strikers and you were telling them, well, these 2 will play today and you'll play that day, and and able to keep everything moving like that. That was his big plus point and his big positive. But I mean, is Capello telling us that we didn't already know?
Yeah, no, it's just an interesting comment.
I think this is somebody trying to keep themselves relevant at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah.
Another one that came out this week, and this is an interesting one for you to take, because I know we've spoke about this already, so the timing of it is good. Man United legend Gary Neville, he warned his former club that the fullbacks Dalot and Tellez will be exposed under Ralph Rangnick's system. Now, from what we've seen so far, I think they're being exposed the right way, are they?
Like, again, we talk about paper not refusing ink and stuff like that. Neville's job is commentary. He's got to comment on stuff. He's got newspaper articles. He's got, stuff he does with Sky. He's got Twitter. Everybody's looking for him to say something. And in fairness to him, we put stuff out there. This might be something he might have to eat humble pie on, which he's getting used to, by the way. Like, I don't feel like Neville knows enough about Ranić maybe to say that, how his team is going to line up is going to be the downfall of Dalot and Tellez. Dalot and Tellez not getting game time at all under Solskjaer was absolutely being their downfall. We spoke about it before, and United fans knowing what the team was going to be. There's a feature on the United app, and it's a competition week to week, and they ask you for specific things. So one of the things they asked you to do was name the starting 11 formation, and you get points based on how many you get right and stuff like that. And then they ask you who'll get the first goal, what will the score be, and who'll be man of the match. And whoever accumulates the most points wins a prize week to week on the website or on the app, Yeah. But it went through a phase where, like, everybody and his dog was getting the maximum points from the squad because you knew who was going to play. And when you play for Man United, that shouldn't be the case. Like, I look at City last week and I look at City this week, there'll be 2, 3, 4 changes. But they'll still get a tune. Guys will still know, if I'm playing right back, I've got to play this way. If I'm playing centre back, I've got to play this way. If I'm playing hold midfielder, I've got to play this way. And that's where the coaching, there's a system. And you fit into the system regardless of, who you are. And that's just how it goes. So that was a big problem for me with United knowing, Wan-Bissaka. Like, United fans, I think, in one sense, they've been very happy when he came in because we were missing a right back and stuff like that, having not really replaced Antonio Valencia. But when you've seen how limited Wan-Bissaka is going forward with the ball, that's something we spoke about. We talked about him, and he's a great defender. He's a good defender. Is he a great defender? I don't think so, based on the fact how often he gets caught out of position and how unbelievable he is at slide tackling because he's been caught out of position.
Because he has.
It's strange to hear Neville say things like that. But again, I just think it's part of every day now that guys have to say something to keep themselves relevant and in the spotlight. And if we look at it now, we're talking about it.
Yeah, true.
I'm
gonna round out the show, which what I thought was the quote of the weekend. Steven Gerrard was interviewed after the Villa game, and Michael Owen was in studio, and Michael Owen asked him how did he feel about going back to Anfield and bringing his team and stuff like that, and Michael Owen made the point that he hated going back to play there. And Gerrard's response, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, and just shows where Stevie is. Like, once a red, always a red. He turned around and he said to Michael Owen, he says, well, if I had applied for Man United, I would have hated coming back here as well. And I just thought to be in that moment and to be able to switch on, here you are, the Aston Villa manager, but you still know when to nail your mast, your colours to the mast. And he just nailed Owen with it, which I thought was a brilliant quote. And Owen just sort of,
I reckon there's a possibility my Labrador could put up a reasonable conversation against Owen. He's the worst football critic in the world. He's shockingly bad. He makes 2 blokes like me and you look good, thank God. We might get a few extra subscriptions off the back of El Michaels and his clangers. He's just so poor. He's a little bit clueless at times. And I've genuinely looked in that BT studio and I've gone, why have they got Owen there? What's that about? Like, as big as a name as he was as a footballer, as a pundit, he is horrendous.
Yeah, he gets asked most of the rhetorical questions, doesn't he?
Oh my
The
God.
answer's already there.
Yeah, it's really, really poor, you know. So, Michael, tell us, what will it be like out there tonight on a Champions League game on a Wednesday in Manchester when it's cold and the ball is wet? You know, like, you're giving them all the blatant answers here. Like, it's, you know what I mean? It's fucking terrible. It really is. But somebody, and that's the scary thing, somebody thinks this could get us views. And you're going, will he though? Or are the views, are they sympathy views, or are they, we'll log on because we know this guy is going to say something stupid? Because if that's the fact, we need to start saying some more stupid things, man. We're not stupid enough.
It's like asking him, how does he think the game is going to go after 90 minutes?
He is absolutely grim, man. Grim.
Absolutely. Well, listen, this has been your Monday mashup. An absolute pleasure, this conversational piece with you for the second half of the show. As always, let us know your comments down there. Head over to YouTube. It's Dynamo Podcast Network for all the videos. It's Spotify for all the audio versions of the show. If you want to contact us, we're on Twitter at @the_upper_tier, and you'll get us also on Facebook and Instagram, the upper tier. Let us know what you thought. Also, check out our 2 draw videos that we did today live on YouTube. Let us know which draw you prefer. Not that the first one is relevant anymore. And check out, there's some shows coming this week. We'll have our Premier League preview is going up tomorrow. You'll see that there. We'll also be doing on the Shankly Sessions a preview of the Newcastle game, and we'll also be dropping a show looking at the effect that the AFCON may have on the Premier League during the month of January. Till next time, a pleasure, my friend.
As always, brother.